Hi, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm here today, Shana Robinson, Shamanic Investigations on YouTube. Thrilled to have Ellen Winter with us. Ellen, I've known for a number of years. She's a teacher for the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. She also has two books. She has Thoughts in the Mind of God and World Shaman, two incredible tomes. I have not had the opportunity to read them yet, but the more I learn about Ellen, the more I'm eager to read those books. So, Ellen, welcome and thank you for coming and meeting me on Zoom today so we can have a conversation about some of your experiences with shamanism.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So, what I wanted to ask is how long have you been teaching for the foundation?
I think, I'm not exactly sure. I think probably I started soon after 2010, or maybe,
Okay.
uh, yeah, I think that's right.
But your involvement with shamanism predates that by a whole lot, doesn't it? Um,
Yeah.
and if you want to, what got you into spiritual things? How did you find yourself looking at the world of spirit and consciousness?
Oh, well, I guess for some reason when I was a child, I was really afraid of dying.
Mhm.
And also, I didn't really think that it was likely that I would go to heaven or hell or have any consciousness after death because when I found out the Easter Bunny wasn't true, that was it for everything in that category.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like all
not the
the.
same. That I don't believe that now, but that was my 4-year-old take on life. And then I
Mhm.
was afraid of dying, of course.
Sure. Sure. I think there's probably a great disillusionment as a child when the stories adults tell us, we start learning that bits of those stories aren't real or aren't true as we would know them. So it causes us to question everything.
Yeah. Probably a good idea not to lie to your child in the first place.
Exactly. Even the fun mystical stuff like, well, Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. I mean,
Hmm.
that was a heartbreaker for me too. What do you
Really?
mean?
The Tooth Fairy? Which one?
No, the Santa Claus. Santa Claus. I really enjoyed Santa. That whole winter mystical, magical thing. But
Yeah.
it's it's what it is, and I guess we grow up and we learn to be discerning.
Hmm.
Learn to be discerning. So obviously, you've moved on from that, and what would you say? Would you say that you had a mystical experience that kind of pulled you out of that sense of disappointment?
Mm. Not until the mid 60s when I took a few helping drugs.
Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I took LSD
Hmm.
when it was, I think it was 1967, 68. We actually lived in Haight-Ashbury for a while. And I had some amazing journeys. And one time I took an overdose of LSD and I
Hmm.
really got to the bottom of it. And the takeaway lesson from that was that nothing that we think is solid and real is solid and real.
Hmm.
And uh, and I thought it was hilarious that everybody's going around so upset and worried about everything, and it's not real. You just have to laugh. It was funny.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because you and I, just before we started recording this program, we're talking about the niggles of life, computers and scheduling and all that stuff. And do you find that remembering that helps you get through some of that stuff now? That
Oh, yeah. I mean, that started me on the path of, uh, looking for spiritual comfort, I guess.
hmm
looking for comfort from the spiritual world. And of course, I didn't find it in any of the churches, but I really love sacred music, though. I'd go to church anytime. I was in a church choir for a while, and I loved that. But yeah, uh, and I'm drawn to people who really have a sincere belief in their religion for some reason, because I don't know, they're just good to be around, most of them. No, I'm not talking about the fire and brimstone people, but I guess they've been mostly women that I found that
Mhm.
quality.
Yeah, that kind of salt of the earth faith that,
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was reading an article that you'd written for Shaman's Drum, and it seemed like you had this wonderful friend, Peter.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how to say his last name,
Skafta, yeah.
Skafta, who seemed to be instrumental in getting you on the shamanic path. Would you
Well,
say that he was helpful?
yeah, but I had already taken the basic workshop from Michael Harner from the Foundation for Shamanic Studies.
Okay. So I
In
didn't have
19,
the chronology in my head how that worked. So you'd done the basic for him, the
yeah,
foundation.
it was a 2-week program in Sky Lake, Nevada,
Hmm.
and yeah, so I had to camp out. I couldn't afford to stay somewhere that cost money, so I had to camp out, and uh, it just blew me away. But the thing that really got me interested was reading his book, Michael
Hmm.
Harner's book, The Way of the Shaman. And he has directions in the book for doing a journey to the lower world, one of the spirit realms
Right.
that shamans recognize, to find a power animal. And, having a power animal has been pretty common feature of shamanism for centuries.
Sure.
I'm not sure how many thousands of years humans go back, but uh, and they used to say that if a child didn't have a power animal, they couldn't survive till adulthood, because the
Hmm.
power animal protects you and helps you and gives you good advice and things. So one of the main things that the shamans did in those days was make sure all the kids in the tribe had a power animal.
Hmm.
So that was the exercise. Go to the lower world and find a power animal. And I did it. I went to the lower world, following the directions. I had a one of those old-fashioned oatmeal boxes
Oh,
that's
like the
round.
Quaker Oats? What are those?
And you take a pencil and beat on it, and it sort of sounds like drumming.
Cool.
Yeah, so I drummed and did my journey to the lower world, and I got there, and I saw an animal, and it was a deer. And of course, I was wondering, well, I'm probably imagining this, but then I saw it move, and I did not make it move. I
Wow.
didn't
Right. Yeah.
imagine making it move, so I was just hooked. There's something here that's beyond me. I don't know what it is, but I want to
Right.
find out.
Isn't that
So
amazing? I mean,
yeah.
I remember my first journey, and there was an animal there. It was stunning. I was absolutely stunned. Wow. That it works, that it works thing was just
Uh-huh.
overwhelming. So that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I guess once you get started in it and you realize that, yeah, there's this whole other reality that I didn't know of
Hmm.
and didn't believe in. So, of course, I wanted it to be true, but
Sure. Sure.
and then I thought, well, yeah, it really seems to work. So, uh, at the time, I was really I was more on the mystical side. I was drawn to oh, some of the teachings of what's her name? Madam something or other.
Blavatsky?
Blavatsky. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All those things, because my mother-in-law was a theosophist, and
Interesting.
yeah, she wrote a book called The Basic Ideas of Occult Wisdom. So, and she thought that I was a good candidate to teach a little bit, but I mean, she just taught me kindergarten. So, and I thought, well, becoming enlightened, that's the thing. That's the thing to work for.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think that shamanism would take me there, but it at least, opened up a lot in that sort of realm, and it was fascinating. So
Sure.
I kept doing it, and I think it actually does get us there.
It can. I think it can.
Yeah, just because we're working with spirits that are
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing. And yeah, so that's still my goal, but I'm not there.
Right. It's always good to have a goal, right? That's something to
Right.
aim for. What is that? A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? Wasn't that Browning or something? I remember that, having that posted on my wall for a while and
Yeah.
thinking, boy, that grasp was pretty far out there. But
Yeah.
it's a worthy goal. It's a worthy task, I think,
Oh,
for
sure.
our souls. I think our souls need that exercise. They need that they need that goal. Yeah.
Hmm.
So okay, so that's really interesting. So you had that kind of brush with esoteric wisdom
Hmm.
coming
Hmm.
from theosophy, which in and of itself is an interesting amalgamation of different traditions and disciplines. But from there, you kind of shifted into the shamanic. Would you say is that kind of that? Was that a decision tree almost for you? Did you feel?
No, I continued to, you know, learn about Buddhist stuff and
Hmm.
anything I could. And what's exciting now, because uh, my parents were scientists, and I was educated, and I was a chemistry major, and uh, then I practiced patent law. So I was into science and all
Hmm.
my life, and but what's exciting to me now is that real science is now looking at the quote hard problem of consciousness, and finding out things that kind of square with the idea that there's a lot more to life than just cause and effect, hard
Right.
science.
Hmm. That is, we do live in exciting times when we're on that edge. Um,
Hmm.
and it's coming into acceptance, even mainstream,
Hmm.
some of these ideas about consciousness.
Hmm.
Do
Yeah.
you, do you think that influences people to seek out things outside of traditional religion, things like shamanism?
Well, probably. I mean, I hear that the churches are not well attended anymore.
Hmm.
So probably when I first started teaching for the foundation, uh, a lot of people were, I knew they had a religion, because when I told them that you could have Jesus as your spirit teacher, that a lot of people do, and you could just almost hear everybody breathing a huge sigh of relief.
Oh, this I can do this. It's okay. Jesus is here. Right?
Right,
Yeah,
right, and it's true. I mean, take advantage of it. So,
exactly. It's just a different way to communicate with this helping spirit.
mhm, yeah. Because it's my understanding the spirits can take any form they want, so
Hmm.
and be anywhere. At least the upper and lower world spirits can be anywhere they want to be. So yeah, you can find what you need.
Right. And do you think that if you look at that, it's a quality of resonance spirit resonance, because we talk a lot about frequency, or many people in the new age with energy healing, that
Hmm.
what I transmit is I'm responded to in kind. My resonances. Do you think that that's part of the revelatory process when the spirits present themselves to people, and why you get what you need?
Well, yeah, you probably do. I'm not sure that any resonance you feel would be something you need, but if you're working with a compassionate, helping spirit,
Hmm.
you'll get what you need.
Hmm.
There's a lot more than that in the resonant world.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Which was interesting as part of your article, Doubting Shaman. You were talking about experiencing spirits and shaking, that you can be shaking for a couple of different reasons: the good, the bad, or the ugly, right? As I understood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, in Nepal, the shamans believe that you have to shake to be a real shaman. And so they make a big production out of it. The shaman has a costume, usually it's white and red costume, and then they sit down. Well, they jump around and sing like our shamans do before they really start, um, and then they sit down cross-legged with their drum and they start beating it. Uh, and then pretty soon they start to shake, and they've got all these bells on their costumes, so the bells start ringing, and it's always this big social event because television was a rarity there when I was there studying, and
Hmm.
so that was what was happening. And there'd be lots of people around just watching to see what was going on, and so then usually usually then the shaman would jump up and dance around some more, and uh, and then sit down again and start working with a client.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what was the question? Oh,
Oh
shaking.
no, the shaking. So, did you have an experience where you felt that you had to exercise discernment or shaking yourself? In other words, I don't want this, but this is okay. Did you ever have any of that kind of experience?
Oh, like I don't want the spirit that's coming.
Right. If you felt that it was, I don't know how I would even language this correctly, like perhaps a darker spirit versus a compassionate, helping spirit.
Oh, well, personally, I don't worry about that much because I think I told you before that when I was really little, about 3 years old probably, I was lying in bed and I was seeing these uh, three really scary faces, mean looking faces floating up in the air above me. And I was scared and I called my dad and he came in and he was a no nonsense kind of guy. And he goes, "Ghost? No such thing." And they disappeared.
Wow.
So now if ever I feel like there's something sort of not right, I just say to myself, "No, no, no such thing." I just remember him saying that really.
Wow. Which was a beautiful early lesson of,
Yeah.
creating the space of your own sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Here's
Yeah.
the boundary. No, just
Yeah.
no, stop.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that's why I don't worry about it. I have clients that worry about it, and some people who hear voices and they really suffer a lot.
Hmm.
And it's not that easy to to say anything or do anything that gets them out of it. I have studied depossession,
Hmm.
and it works a lot of the time, but with people who really are died in the wool schizophrenics,
Right.
it's hard because they they're afraid that that their spirits will, or the whatever's behind their voices will hurt them if they say anything.
Hmm.
And so they don't, they, it's important to try to engage them in conversation or have, if they won't speak to me, I ask the client to just say whatever comes and pops into their head.
Sure.
And but if they won't say anything, I sometimes it works. Another shaman told me sometimes it works if you just ask a yes or no question,
Hmm.
and then even though that's all that you get, even though you don't even get an answer, you can kind of easily feel what the answer is.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
So, and when you talk about easily feel, you're speaking about actually being in an altered state at the time, open to the communication.
right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting thing, that whole spirit contact, isn't it? How you make contact, with whom you make contact. So, would you say that when you were observing the Nepalese shamans doing their work, what was the nature of the spirits that they were working with?
Oh, mostly they were the cultural gods and goddesses. Um, there's both Hindu and uh, Tibetan
Hmm.
influence in among the shamans as they're kind of getting mashed together a bit.
Sure.
And uh, the spirits they worked with, I'm sure, were spirits that uh, were helpers to them. And I don't know if they even, told me who they were working with.
Hmm.
But one of the spirits that worked with people is called Manjakri, which means the forest shaman.
Right. Okay. I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah, and that could be, your main helping spirit. Um,
Would that be considered a middle world spirit?
I always thought it was
Hmm.
because it says forest spirit, and there's a legend that the Banjakari will steal uh, young children, 2, 3, 4 years old, and take them to a place in the forest where he lives, where everything's made out of gold and it's beautiful. And he teaches them mantras because there's a lot of mantras that the shamans use,
Hmm.
and songs and things, and how to be a shaman, how to drum, and then and then uh, it feels like they're gone forever, for days, months. But then when they come back, sometimes their parents don't even know they were gone.
Wow.
And
So,
they,
so I was going to say that the perception of time for the person who's been taken away is different than the passage of time for the people who've remained, like parents.
yeah, I think so. Um, I don't know. It's hard to know what to believe.
Right. There's
One of my teachers was, she called herself a Blun shaman, that's the shamanism of Tibet that is before Buddhism took
right.
over. But they still respect the shamanic traditions there, I
Hmm.
hear. And she was a Banjakri shaman. That's really, you're top of the list if you're a Banjakri shaman that
Hmm.
was stolen in childhood. And yeah, she told me a lot of stories about traditional things like how they make their drums. The shaman has to go out and find the right tree and find the right animal skin to use, and
Hmm.
it's all very carefully done, which I think is a good idea. We should all make our own drums.
And very carefully, with great
Careful.
thought and spirit help, right?
Right, exactly, exactly. That one of my students told me that he went to a making a drum workshop, and he was sitting next to a Native American guy, and every time that guy would pick up anything he was going to use, he would praise it. Beautiful skin. This is really nice. This drum, this wood is so perfect. He would just praise everything that he put on the drum
Wow.
as he was going along, and his drum was just wonderful. And
Right. Yeah.
my student's drum wasn't so good, but he learned the secret.
Exactly. That's beautiful. I mean, just that whole idea of respect. Would you
Mhm.
say that the skin of the drum and the drum for the Nepalese shaman is like what we talk about with the Siberian shaman? It is the horse they ride to the other world. Would they think of it in that way? So that the animal skin would be an important animal who might carry them to the other world?
I never heard that said.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just comparing traditions somehow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But they all shake. You all have to shake if you're a shaman.
Hmm.
And I didn't shake. First of all, I went to Nepal first for I think 3 weeks and then came back. But I had met the people that were
Hmm.
wanting to start this shaman school. So two of them came over and stayed with me here and put on some kind of a event here in Boulder, and so I had come from work to be there, and I had all my work clothes on, and they called me up to sit next to the shaman who had been was one of my teachers, and he was drumming and saying mantras, and all of a sudden I started to shake, and it started in my stomach, and it just kind of then moved into the rest of my body, and so that was a sign to them that I was good material. I could be a shaman. And
Wow.
that's why I went back to Nepal and stayed about 4 months. And then I wasn't able to shake until
Oh, wow.
just before my visa ran out. And finally, uh, my teacher sat me down in front of her altar and she said, "Now recite all the mantras that I've taught you.
Hmm.
And when you get done, start over again." And I had memorized lots of mantras.
Wow.
And so it took a long time and I had to start over again. And then somehow I started shaking finally. And so, oh wow, okay, I'm sure everybody was thinking our shaman school is going to not work because we can't even teach this person. And
Can't get this woman to shake. Come on, man. Let's
yeah,
go.
but now everybody was excited and they made me a costume and they tested me and everything. And so somehow I got out of it alive.
Yeah, really. It sounds like a real test in terms of just coming into the whole practice and validation by the spirits.
Yeah, yeah, there was that, and for me,
Hmm.
and I don't know. I don't do that shamanism very much at all here because nobody understands it. It doesn't mean anything really if you weren't raised in that tradition. Because a lot of the things that the shaman will tell people is you have offended the spirit, the forest goddess.
Hmm.
So you probably did something to offend her. So you have to go and make an offering, things like that. Uh, and people here just didn't seem to relate to that.
Right. It
So
doesn't compute because
yeah,
do you think it's because we're not as connected to nature, or is it an unfamiliar cosmology, or a combination of both?
yeah, a combination. I mean, people are very, what do you say, devout. They really believe in their spirits and in their
Mhm.
gods and goddesses, and there's shrines everywhere, and uh, and when you're there, the funny thing is when you're there, it's really easy to believe in that, in everything that about the spirit world that's part of their cosmology. It's just easy to believe it. And then you come home, come back here, and it's not that easy.
It's interesting because I would think there, if there are shrines and things all over, it is a very lived experience. And in our country, and where we live in the Western world, it seems that we compartmentalize our spirit lives. We stick those lives into churches one time a week for an hour. It isn't a lived daily experience. I mean,
Right.
and so that I think that would make it very difficult. So, what would you say if you wanted to help somebody have that sense of spirit presence more readily in their lives? Is there a way that you think you could tell somebody how that might work? Would you suggest that they have an altar in the house? What would you suggest? Because I think people are looking for that.
Yeah. Um, I would suggest that they get in contact with a spirit before having all the contraptions.
Yes,
That's how I
I
think
love
of
it. I
it.
love it. Yeah, right. Don't buy another crystal and another doodah. Let's just
Yeah.
get down to the real, the
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah. They should take a workshop and learn how to journey and get in touch.
I
Some
think
people
that
learn these rules, but
I think that is such good advice because we see that on occasion where it's the spirit fad of the week. So this week I'm doing oracle cards and I bought it like 12 different sets and oh well, ho hum, now I better do all the crystals and ho hum and moving on. And so it's all very surface.
mhm,
And as you say, I think the real thing is to make the connection and build relationships with the helping spirits,
mhm,
build those relationships and have a solid foundation. So yeah, before you get all the feathers, um,
mhm.
meet your helping spirits.
Yeah. Or tattoo everything on your body.
I've seen some people do that, and it's a very busy life they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very busy.
Yeah. Because then it kind of evolves more easily. I have an altar. I have some stuff that I've accreted over the years,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I've never been very good at that kind of stuff. Uh, I'm, I know it's important to have rituals,
Mhm.
and I just don't seem to. I think it's hard for me to get out of ordinary reality and to do a ritual.
Mhm.
We're still working with objects, and so I'm still in the object world, I guess. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
It's That's so interesting because I think I'm right there with you. There's a deep desire to have ritual that
Hmm.
that is rich, that marks things for me because I tend to like the seasons and going through kind of the wheel of the year. I understand there's a lot and it's very complicated and it's very location based. Um, but it seems that there are moments in our seasonal passages that are liminal moments where it would be beautiful to have a ritual that jumps into the energies, the flow of that seasonal shift to make a deeper connection with spirit. And I just, for some reason, I feel, I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is, just kind of like not quite able to commit or know how to do that yet. So I suppose you tell me to take a journey and and have my spirit to help me. It's like, okay, I want to do something. What can I do? And some of their stuff is so simple when they say light a candle, and I look for the elaborate. Maybe that's part of my issue.
Yeah. Well, sometimes if you're doing some kind of a household ritual like folding laundry or something,
Mhm.
you can you can assign meaning to some of the things, and have that be a ritual, and something like every time I fold this I don't know, this towel, I'll just think that, oh, this is gonna make me so clean, and I'll just be, I don't know, just things like that. Assign a
Well,
meaning to it.
and it's interesting because really what you're telling me is that you bring your consciousness to it. You make it, it's not just you run in and you whip these things out of the dryer and you fold them, you stick them away and you feel good, like, okay, chore done.
Hmm.
It's bringing moment to moment present awareness to, I'm grateful for this towel. This is the towel that warms me up when I get out of the shower at the swim pool. Thank you,
Hmm.
towel. And that can be a ritual,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
as simple as that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mindful living,
Yeah.
bringing mindfulness to it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Thank you
good.
for that. Thank you for putting that on my radar again.
Yeah. But I recognize the need for rituals. Uh, Sometimes uh, people, clients, people who need shamanic healings, they've got some kind of sense that they sinned, you know,
Oh, right.
and that they're going to be punished and they deserve punishment,
Mm,
and all that. And so if you can do some shamanic work to alleviate that, and then tell them, go to some kind of body of water, and pour, I don't know, pour some on yourself, and ask whatever deity you believe in to wash away every last remnant of your uh, any sense of guilt.
right.
I mean, not that I do that much, because, but I think it helps.
Mhm.
I know some shamans use things like that a lot, and it's a good idea.
Right. Actually, giving a client an assignment that brings what the work has brought to them into a more tangible form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of our cultural narratives, I think that's some of the issue too. We have some really charged narratives that I think keep people trapped in some of these feelings of guilt or shame. And I think it's tough to help them deconstruct some of those narratives and maybe choose a new narrative, recognizing that we do have choices about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just I think a lot of soul retrieval. I think maybe part of the way it works is, it is bringing a vital essence back to them, and then they feel empowered.
Mhm.
That yeah, but they have to already know what their problem is, I guess, and say, okay, now I realize that uh, my mind is telling me things that telling me bad things about myself, and but I have this more vital essence, and I don't have to believe it anymore.
That's an interesting take on that. Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Having that vital essence, meaning that I can now do, I can now look at that issue with greater strength and make a different choice about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much. I think there's a lot of soul loss in our society today, and
Yeah.
because there's a lot of trauma, and people, I think, find it very difficult to step out of the trauma because with drama attached, there are so many secondary benefits to things now
Exactly.
that it makes it very difficult to want to give it up because gosh, I get so much attention or so much else comes to me from it,
Mhm.
I think that makes it a real challenge. I,
Yeah, and so a lot of people haven't grown up yet.
that's one way of putting it. Yeah. Pulling up the big girl panties, as they say.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true. And who's that writer who writes about Ecuador? He went to the Ecuador and he was a shaman, and then uh, he had to initiate the whole younger generation into adulthood.
Oh, I wish I had that name on the tip of my tongue, but I don't. I know who you're speaking of.
Yeah,
I can't bring the name to mind.
yeah, I can't either. But anyway, so he did. He actually was an American, I think, before he went there, and he went there and became a shaman, and then he really melded into the culture.
Hmm.
But they gave him that task, and he made them go through ordeals,
Hmm.
to things that would really toughen them up and make them have to overcome some obstacles, and uh, and he got good results. And then they were adults. We should have that.
I was just going to say, it sounds to me like our culture has lost some of those benchmarks, those initiatory benchmarks that say, okay, you've come to this point now. We're either going to do X or Y, but once you pass this, you are an adult and now you have responsibilities of an adult. I think so many people these days are born with the idea I have rights, but
Hmm.
nobody remembers that those come with responsibility. And and you have to take on mantles of responsibility. And as much as that may seem like it's a chore, there are gifts in being responsible. Major
Hmm.
gifts come from being responsible.
Well, I know that then you get to be in control, but what else?
Well, you prove to yourself that you have capabilities. I think it you build. It's not necessarily control of others, maybe, but control of yourself.
Hmm.
I think self mastery, I think, is part of responsibility.
Yeah, right. And also just being helpful to other people and kind of,
Right? Yeah, you're not the only one on the planet.
yeah.
It's not all about you.
I know. Well, we've all been there, but there's
Sure.
too many that aren't coming out.
Hmm.
One of my sons suggested everybody has to do some community service or service for the whole country at a certain age. And if they don't do it, they won't be able to drive or they won't be able to get whatever adult things they want.
Well, that's pretty cool. So if everybody from the ages of 17 to 18 is out doing community service, like the old WPA,
Hmm.
cleaning up the parks, building a few things, tidying up cleaning up trash on the roadside,
Hmm.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that
whatever.
earns you adult points.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
I
like
think that
it.
would be good.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, my grandchildren, my granddaughter in first grade, she has to have a little tablet for school,
Hmm.
and her little brother, who's 2, he's got his little tablet too.
Wow. I just got a smartphone and I've told it I have a hammer because I don't like it at all. Amazing
Yeah,
though, isn't it? It is.
yeah, yeah. But it's kind of scary, who's gonna fix everything and take care of everything when there's only the kids only know how to be online.
Right. Where's the adult in the room?
Right,
Right.
right.
Do you think shamanism has a role in bringing more adults to the room?
Probably. I mean, you can learn to connect with spirits, and then you have to be ethical about it, which is kind of
Hmm.
a discipline. You
Oh,
know,
it
you
is absolutely.
Yeah, you can't say, "Oh, I've got this power. I'm gonna, I'm gonna make this person love me," and, or "I'm gonna hurt my enemy." You know, you can't do that because for one reason, it's true. It's been apparently there's no science on it, but people have noticed that if you're hanging around with spirits that allow you to do stuff like that, your your good spirits are going to desert you and bad things are going to happen to you.
Mhm. Right, because it's the power of your helping spirits that keeps you strong and protected.
Right, right. You know, Michael Harner wrote a book about the Shuar people
Yes.
that he was with and how they
Mhm.
would the men a lot of the men were shamans and they would send these poison darts of spirit darts.
The Sensak. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, is that what
The
they're called?
Sensak, yeah. They
Yeah,
would shoot them out, yeah. But
yeah, and
that was middle world warfare, as I understood.
yeah. I actually was talking to somebody who spent time down there, and she said it was horrible. People, the culture was horrible. If there were people around in a circle and they were passing around something to drink, some of the people would say, "You drink it first,"
Whoa.
because they were afraid of being poisoned.
Wow.
And it just and Michael Harner's book says, you know, a lot of times those shamans that do a lot of that, they have bad luck and
Right.
it's bad for their families. Their families
Mhm.
get hurt.
Right. In other traditions, other earth-based traditions, even witchcraft, they say, you do something bad, it comes back on you three times.
Mm, yeah,
So there's this whole idea of, what you put out, you get back.
yeah, right.
So
Yeah, that's
interesting.
important.
And that's a great book. It's The Hivaro. I think that's the
That's
title of
right.
the book, The Hivaro,
Now they're
Jivaro. And I guess they were called Shuar as well.
yeah, they're called Shuar now. And
Mhm.
from what I've heard lately about them is maybe they're not doing that so much anymore. But anyway, when he was there in the middle of the last century, they were.
Yeah, they were still actively
Hmm.
engaging in that kind of spirit warfare
Hmm.
between different villages. And I think that was probably something that inspired him and continued to inspire him toward the end of his life when he began to talk about ethnocentric spirits, the middle world spirits,
Hmm.
those who were very concerned with taking care of their own, not necessarily others.
Hmm.
And that's been a fascinating trajectory because
Hmm.
other people have written about that, talking about the sacrifices that are required sometimes for the ethnocentric spirits versus just this kind of loving exchange between the compassionate helping spirits. Very
Hmm.
interesting trajectory to explore some of that.
Yeah, yeah, yep. I remember him saying that many times. So, what else do we need to say?
Well, actually, I was going to say this has been a wonderful conversation. We could probably go into some Michael Harner reminiscence, but we've already gone for almost an hour, and I think it's probably a great time to break. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us your website, if you have a website and a web address. If people want to contact you, go ahead and let us know what that might be, and um, tell us the titles of your books and how we might get them.
Okay. Yeah, I do have a website. It's called worldshaman.org, worldshaman.org. And that's after one of my books. That's the title of, I think it was my first book was called World Shaman, and it was
Mhm,
about one of my teachers. And
mhm,
because he was the son of a famous shaman in Bhutan and was trained to be a shaman. And he had a very interesting life. He tried not to, he tried to get out of it, but later on he had to go back to it. And the other book is called Thoughts in the Mind of God. And that's about my saga of my adventures in Nepal trying to learn to be a shaman.
Beautiful.
And you can email me at ewinner, EWINNER, at worldshaman.com, and I'll answer.
Wonderful. And I will put all that information in the bottom of this YouTube so that people can find you, contact you, and get your book. I want to thank you so much, Ellen, for having this wonderful conversation. I would love to do more because you are just a font of information and knowledge. And so I appreciate you so for your willingness to do this. So thank you very much.
Oh, thanks. You made it very easy.
Well,
Thank
I'm
you.
glad. Thanks.